Hello, wrenches, and welcome to the Wrench Turners podcast, 10 Mil Mastery Edition. It's a show where the lads and I discuss topics that are relevant to today's technicians that may be outside of the normal purview. In today's episode, Marshall brings up something that we don't necessarily want our spouses to know about. Does the average technician spend $60,000 or more on tools? Let's get into it. Marshall, what do you have for us this week, good sir?
All right, I got us something here. Let's start it off with something quick. 57% of technicians say they think that technicians spend 60,000 plus on their tools over the course of their career. Would you guys concur? Because I would say I'm 100K in 15 years. I'm insured for 100K as well.
So just to clarify, because we have audience in 14 countries, you're talking 67% of technicians, and be clear, 67% of HD. Where's the survey from?
The survey is from Wrenchway, and it is actually pertaining directly to automotive because there's not a lot of documentation out specifically for HD. So this is 57% of automotive technicians say they think, so they don't know, but they're thinking that technicians spend 60,000 plus on their tools over the course of their career.
And that's $60,000 US. Okay. As a Canadian that has roughly $60,000 in Canadian money, our good old fashioned Monopoly money, I would say that yes, I would concur. Had I bought the toolbox before I left specifically automotive the first time, I'd be deep into the 80s by now, if not more. I didn't have to buy a whole lot to get into the power sports store I am now. I bought a $300 toolbox, and just about everything that I owned already has worked. There's some super specialty tools that I haven't need to buy because the shop owns. So I haven't had in the last year and change to buy a whole lot, but I'm now at a point where I think if I wanted to go hard, there's probably another 5 to 10 grand worth of tools. So I would concur that $60,000 US over the career is probably an average, if not a minimum. Russell, what do you think?
Well, when that Wrenchway did that question, I decided to go ahead and look because I've spent about $48,000 on what I have. So I sat down and tried to put together various sets, Sonic, Snap-on, whatever, and to replace what I have, I would easily crack 60, and I'm closer to 80. But I've only spent $48,000 because I was buying stuff 25 years ago. So, it's lower because it was over a longer period of time.
Tools were probably better quality 25 years ago too.
Some of them were better. Some of them are better now. Battery electric has come a long, long way here lately. Where
agreed.
On the flip side, air tools, you can still be using the same impact gun from 20 years ago and it still works just fine, whereas you're lucky to get 5 years out of an electric impact. So
yeah, those old school IR impact guns where we used to take the little muffler filter out of the bottom and you can rev them up and you can literally deafen the shop because they're so bloody loud. And I'm trying to remember, my shop foreman had one. The eldest apprentice at the time, Brian Goss, had one. They would have loud competitions. I think at one stage they would get out the funnel and try and make them louder, hold up to the funnel to the bottom of the gun. It's just wah wah wah. I remember those.
I'll tell you what though. The air tools have come a long way too though, and to add on to that though, because like a half-inch impact 25 years ago is like a quarter of the strength that a half-inch impact is now,
Yeah, 200, you don't necessarily get... now, let's see, we're trying to think, what's mine rated? I got a half-inch IR TI, 2135, and I think when I bought it, it was a
700 foot-pounds.
Yeah, 700 foot-pounds, give or take. What's the new one? I have honestly haven't been
11.
on in 1100. 1100.
It's like three-quarter territory down, the new ones.
In a half inch.
Yeah.
My Milwaukee is rated at 1250, so the electric still beats the air.
Oh, that's gonna cause but that's gonna cause it. I'm gonna clip that shit right there. Electric over air. What do you got invested in tools, Richard? Are you did you crack the 60, or are you up higher than that now?
As long as my wife's not listening, I'm higher than that.
Well,
They
didn't clarify between storage. You know, they don't clarify between storage and tools, right? So I would just say all encompassed with your tool storage and your tools. If you had to replace everything tomorrow.
So my original box that I started out with was a $400 Mastercraft box from Canadian Tire on sale. And then I watched one of so my bay mate next to me had a whole custom cart, like custom welded support post on the bottom, and all these like old school standard toolboxes in it with two westward cabinets on the end. Mm-hmm. I watched him trade that in on it was an 84-inch Epic top and bottom with two side cabs, and I was like, holy crap! Like I almost bought into I'll call it the trap, because Matco and Snap-on, buying those boxes is a trap. There's enough quality makers out there. Like watching that and hearing how much he dropped in that, I only spent $2,000 on my box. And that was a 48-inch by standard 28-inch deep, and that was top and bottom with a side cab. So $2,000, and that was made by Jet Tools. Of course, the drawer slides on it went, but $50 in new drawer slides, and I was good to go. So my box was my cheapest investment, and then for tool wise total, and then tools. I have built-in, so my toolbox is at home. I have a full set of electrics at home because I got fed up with it wasn't even my Mac rep. I got fed up with their customer service. So I have a full set of Mac. I have half-inch, 3/8 ratchet, and of course all it supports all my DeWalt shit that I got at home too. So I have a almost full secondary set of tools at home now, and I have I'm well over the 60,000 mark for Canadian, at least. I'm probably in the 1 to 120 range right now with tools, like with scan tools and.
Do not let our wives hear this episode. Do not let our wives listen to this episode.
But that's over. Like my wife was surprised because I finally paid my truck off, and the deal I made with her is once my truck's paid off, she's getting a new vehicle. So she got a 2023 Terrain here coming next week, and she's like, "Are you sure you can afford that?" And I'm like, "So." I give my between my Snap-on and my Mac wrap, I give them $200 a week. So add that up quick. She's like, "Are you kidding me?" And I'm like, "No, that's usually what I pay. If I have outstanding bills, I want it paid off as fast as I can." And now with all the electric stuff, like the shop supplied gloves, but I went and bought my own insulation meter because I don't want. At the end of the day, it should be a common tool, but I don't want an insulation meter. I want to know that it's reliable, right? So it's mine, right? Mm-hmm. And it was always, as an apprentice, I have the rule for my apprentices: you borrow it 3 times, you buy it.
3 times.
Right? So
2 times could be fluke. 3 times is not going to be a fluke. You're going to be doing it over.
Then you're going to know what you're going to need that tool. But with like the guys, I've had to tell my techs, like, you got to start buying tools. How many times have you borrowed that from me? You need to start buying tools. Like, and they're it's an investment in yourself. Marshall said this before. Mm-hmm. If I see a guy who shows up for a job and he tells me, he's done this and this and this, and he shows up with like a dinky Mastercraft box and, a couple grand worth of tools, and there's no investment in himself at that point, unfortunately. And we get as journeymen, we get dicked over by the government big time for tax write-off purposes. You got to spend, what is it? They upped it to 15. You got to spend $1,500 to possibly get $500 back, and it's ridiculous.
Not even a
as
third.
when you're an apprentice, it's 100%.
You can write off 100%, but you don't get 100% back. It's something like 55% as an apprentice so here in Canada, for those listening that don't know what it's like up here in Canada, each province is slightly different on their tax laws for mechanics and apprentices. Their licensing is a little bit different for mechanics and apprentices in automotive, and there's a diverse nature of specific trades, because in Canada we have marine certificates, we have automotive certificates, we have HD certificates, and so on and so forth. In each one, they have different tax rules based on the things that we can claim and how much you get back. As apprentices, we get more back, which is weird because there's no way you're going to spend $50,000 in tools in the first 4 years. They can't afford it. But from a pure investment to value, if you could, in theory, spend 50 grand, you would get more back in that first 4 years, because once you get outside, you no longer you have to spend to a threshold. Most trades you have to spend to a threshold in order to claim anything, because it's like like your income, where up to a certain value is a certain tax bracket, and then the value between that and the next tax bracket gets charged a different value. Here, you have to spend, say, $1,500, and none of that gets written off. But if you spend more than that, only a portion of it gets written off. And here in Ontario, I think it's 25%. So, like, you got to spend five. Yeah. If you spend $5 grand, you only get to write off $3,500, and only like $500 of that $3,500 do you get real tax credit on. It's insane. Anyway, that's a divestiture from the question. I think the point is, absolutely, it's 60 grand if it's not more. The think part could be thrown in the trash, and just, yes, if you're going to be in the trade for 10 years plus, you're going to spend 60 grand US, 80 grand, or probably close to 80 grand Canadian on tools and tool storage combined. Guaranteed. And I think what we could do
is storage.
Pardon? Oh, and tool storage.
That's insane. No offense, but tool storage. I get, from Marshall's perspective, where he's got a service truck and that's tool storage. That's a whole different investment, right? But when it comes to the box that holds your tools, when you see guys who are like, and you see it all the time on the forums, where they're like, it's not that they're not proud of it, but it's like, holy crap, when you see some of these lube techs posting, look what I got, and it's like a $5,000 cart, and you're like, holy shit, like, nobody talked you out of that, like. But
Joe,
yeah,
be aggressive, Russell. Be aggressive.
Here's the thing: go and do some research. I mean, I've been on watching, doing the reviews. Sure, Harbor Freight's got the Icon series. Tool Vault puts out an 84-inch box with sides and a hutch and on top, so you can make it look just like an Epic for 10 grand. So come on, guys, do a little bit of research. Don't waste your money on tool truck tool storage.
100%.
No,
as journeymen, we have to be aggressive with this. Because from a mentorship standpoint, whether we're teaching them how to turn the wrench, whether we're teaching them how to be a wrench, we also have to teach them from our own mistakes, right? We've spent the last 10, 15, 20, 25 years in this trade making mistakes. There is no need for these young folks to make the same fucking mistakes, right? There's no reason why they can't go out and buy I just recently saw a Striker. I think Striker is a box, and I've been getting slammed with their ads on a regular basis. Like, they're really, really nice boxes. And if I was actually in market for a tool storage right now, I'd be buying one. Because their customers, like, I've already called to talk to people. Their customer service is great. The boxes look great. The color selection is great. I wouldn't necessarily say put it on par with any of the big three, but there's absolutely no reason why you can't buy one at the absolute discount, quote unquote, rate to a Snap-on Mac or Matco box. Like, Who is
Yeah, I
actually
mean-
going to put a dump truck on top of one, please?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the biggest thing is like I get it because all of my boxes are Snap-on. I own multiple boxes; they're all Snap-on, so I can't really. But I didn't start in a Snap-on. I started out of a Craftsman carry 130 piece set. That's what I started with, and then I moved into a Craftsman 2-box setup that came from a garage sale. And then I moved into a service cart that was a hand-me-down from one of the guys. He was going to trade it in, and I gave him $100 for it. And I got that also. So I had the little Craftsman box and the little service cart. And then I moved into a clean one owner Snap-on 76-inch, and I fit everything I owned in the top 3 drawers of that fucker. And then I worked on it, and I bought tools until I couldn't close the drawers anymore. And then I bought my very last box, which I literally just bought like 3 years ago, and it's an Epic. And I was like, you know what? I have earned it. I've worked my guts out, and I'm gonna buy me something nice that I'm proud of. And I bought the Epic, and then I bought the matching service cart like 3 years later. So, and it's an Epic Sidekick, and that thing is it is epic. It's sick. But my apprentices, they all work their way into it too, because I'm there to help them make educated decisions. It's their money. Ultimately, they're going to spend it however they want. But we're there to guide them and direct them. Like, hey, I tell them all the time, hey, you can buy that same tool. It is literally the exact same thing on Amazon. And these new guys, though, they're getting savvy. They see all these guys on TikTok, like Mr. Subaru doing the reviews, and all of these guys that tell them where to find the stuff. You know what I'm saying? They're savvy. They're penny pinching. They're you know, we just have to keep pushing that savviness of these new age technicians, and they're going to do good. They're going to not make the decisions that we made, but like I said, I love my Snap-on boxes, and it's hard for me to fight the other direction, but I know it's not, I didn't make those choices early on, but I know other guys that did, and the other guys did that for me, and they were like, hey, don't do that yet. You're not ready for that investment. Later on, when you're making 6 figures, you can buy whatever toolbox you want, but the toolbox doesn't make you any money. The tools that are in the toolbox make the money, and you make the money.
The early you're talking about being savvy, Marshall, and I think that's one of the big things, right? Is learning to be savvy, not necessarily frugal or necessarily penny pinching to some degree, but I mean be savvy, be smart, be on Marketplace, be on Kijiji, be looking for the techs who are like 65 retiring. You can get. Like I saw literally 3 weeks ago, because it's force fed from Facebook, I saw retiring from trade. I just turned 67, and he's got my toolbox, my KRA 4813 split drawer, 48-inch, 13 drawer bottom, completely jammed, and it had a custom stainless stop on it. Okay, custom stainless stop, fully jammed with tools, everything you'd need as an apprentice to start. Like, he had already sold off the top, he sold off his side cabs, whatever. He literally built the, quote-unquote, built the rest of it to sell it to one person just starting the trade. You couldn't have asked for a better set from anyone everywhere. It would have decimated all of the Sonic tools pre-kit, because everything had that perfect thumb wear on the right hand thumb wear on the IR impact gun. It had all of the little bit of wear and tear of using the screwdrivers and everything right-handed and so on and so forth. All of the screwdrivers were matching and so on. It was like $7,500.
Dude,
like
money in the bank.
You would, as an apprentice coming into the trade, you would not have had to buy a tool probably for 5 years.
And you could have gone to the bank and got a signature loan for that at 3-4% instead of. I know, like, I have pretty good Snap-on credit, but it's not 23%. It's like 8% now. But that's over years and years and years of buying Snap-on tools and maintaining a credit account. But the new guys coming in, they start a credit account at 23%. That's a credit card when they could just go to the bank, borrow $7,500, and have something lined out for them, and they could make a small payment, and even if they made the same payment, they'd be way ahead. You know what I'm saying? Because they'd be paying it down quicker. I don't know. That's the way I'd recommend all my apprentices. If they can borrow $5,000, buy a decent little toolbox, and then just slam it full. Go to Harbor Freight and spend $2,500.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the other benefit to that, Marshall, is that they're building credit outside of Snap-on, right? They're not
Yeah.
building a corporate account. They're building actual usable credit. And touching on what Joshua just talked about, I don't think us as technicians, and I've been seeing it more and more because the marketplace always fills my, like, if I don't click on anything, it's always like tools and fitness equipment. But looking at how much revenue there is lost in my investment, some days I look at it, I'm just like, it kind of pisses me off that these guys got out of the trade and you're getting pennies on the dollar for your tools, right? They're worn, they have a story to tell, that guy has a story to tell, and he's going to get pennies on the dollar for that $60,000 he invested or more during his lifetime. He's going to get maybe 10% back if he's lucky. Like, that's insane.
I think too we can do a better job of, like, I get on the trucks with my apprentices and I buy stuff out of the used bin all day every day. I'm like, hey, where's the used bin? They pull it open. There's like almost a brand new MG 725 Snap-on half-inch impact, and I was like, what do you want for this? He's like, 200. I was like, dude, all day. That's an $800-900 impact. And it looked brand new. He said, yeah, the guy bought it. He wanted the newest one or whatever, and he traded it in. This thing literally didn't have a scratch on it. It was brand new. It looked like it didn't even have the air fitting screwed into the bottom of it. So we can dig out of the rummage through the used bin. I bought a full set of Proto wrenches the other day for $10 a wrench, and it was like $60, and they're really nice wrenches. And but I make a point to my apprentices see me doing that, and I make considerably more money than they do. But that's just a straight leading from the front deal there. They see that I'm not too good to buy stuff from. I'm like, hey, check out the score I got from the garage sale last weekend. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not too good for that. I make good money, but I like to hold on to it as long as I can.
Mm-hmm. Russell, jump in. You had something there.
I was going to comment on something that Marshall said about the toolbox not making you money. It is true that it doesn't make you money, but it can sure cost you money. Because if everything is jammed in there, stacked on top of each other, and you can't find what you need and it's slowing you down, it's costing you money. Mm-hmm. So by all means, if you're finding yourself where you can't find your stuff, where it's stacked in there on top of each other, go ahead and upgrade to the bigger box just so that you can have some room to spread out so you can find what you need quickly and move on with the job.
Oh, 100%. We can that could be an entire episode talking about customization.
Do automotive techs typically work out of the same bay always? You guys just normally have your own bays, or?
I have two, but I have most of my stuff in a cart that I can wheel all over the shop because if my two bays are full, I'm borrowing bays.
Yeah. So like all Richard, the HD shops that I've worked. Go ahead, Richard.
So when I started at Ford was I had my own box. GM was I had my own box. Then when I went to Nissan, it was built-ins, which was holy. Like I had to relearn where all my stuff went, which was a nightmare for the first little bit. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like built-ins are great. I get why employers do them because the shop looks uniform. It looks nice. It's easy to clean up. The Nissan shop didn't have the slopes on top of the built-on, so you could still stack crap on top of the box if you needed to. But yeah, built-ins, I had to relearn like where all my stuff went. I was like, I had to reorganize the entire box where it all went. And then when I went to GM, the first thing that I did, I was like, I looked at their built-ins. I'm like, okay, they're the same. So what I did was I went and opened, and this is so every technician should do this, not only for an organizational reason, but for insurance purposes. Open your box and take pictures of everything that's in your box. Open the drawer, take a picture from above, then you can see that it's organized. Close that drawer, open the next drawer, take a picture from above. And that way then if for insurance reasons or anything like that, You have a visual inventory of everything. If you move locations and your box gets jumbled around, or you have a visual representation, or if you have built-ins and you're moving from one shop to the next, you know how to set up your box again, so you're not relearning everything, and your muscle memory doesn't go to absolute shit for the first couple weeks relearning everything.
Been there.
Yeah, so
It's
like
awful.
all the
Did you Tupperware from Nissan to the GM store you're at? Yeah. Oh my God. I'm thankful that I did. I'm so thankful that I did exactly the same thing where I took pictures of everything, and when I moved built-ins, it was like, oh, this is gonna hurt, because it's one thing because you go to the new store with the built-ins, right, with everything in your toolbox, so you're gonna empty your toolbox into the built-in and then take the toolbox home. So that in itself is almost like, I have all of this money tied up in tool storage that's just gonna go home and sit and collect dust. Like, what am I doing with my, like, should I sell it? I don't know. Do I risk selling it and having to buy something if I ever leave? Because that's a whole different conversation, right? We can have that conversation. That's risk management. You keep the box. Don't sell the box. Keep the box. There is no amount of money that makes sense to sell that box, because you're never going to get the value that it's worth today for you to replace it today. And Lord knows, if you have to buy something new, there's not going to be anything available that suits your price point and your availability all at the same kind, and something that you actually want to look at the end of your bay every single day, because that enters all of that into that equation too, right? But I think to Russell's point, most importantly is, yes, it can cost you money, and we can talk about how your organized toolbox or unorganized toolbox can cost you a seriously large amount of money. And I think that's a great way to close out. There's positive as a negative. We do spend a lot of money on tools, irrespective of vertical in automotive, or whether HD or whatever the case may be. Two, if you don't spend the appropriate amount of money, you're going to be judged both by your peers and by management as not necessarily being as successful as you say you are. Now, I have seen technicians who have a lot less tools than their experience, their talking experience says they do, and pull it off. But I've also seen way more of the opposite. Folks that say they can fix the world in a $100 toolbox, as it were, and can't fix shit. They just can't fix shit. Now, I've also seen folks with a whole lot of tools can't fix shit too. And I'm sure all four of us have seen those. You know, they've got the tool caddy on their tool belt, and they've got the extra tool cart, and they've got the toolbox on the toolbox, and the side cabs on the load tile, and they come to you, it's like, what does this mean? Well, that's an ohm sign. So I digress. That's a great topic. That was a great, I wouldn't necessarily say simple, Marshall, because we talked about that for like 30 plus minutes, buddy. But cool.
Well, you know, it's that's our way, though. You know what I mean? We dissect it, we tear it apart, we add on to it, we build it, and make it something. So
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh no! That's the end of today's episode, Regis. But there's another one coming next week. You know there is. Thank you again for listening, folks. We really, really appreciate it. We enjoy filming these. We have a great time, a whole bunch of laughs when we do it. We were supposed to sit down for just a short time last time, and we ended up sitting down for like 2.5 hours. It was awesome. Folks, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to the Wrench Turners podcast on your streaming service of choice, so that we can get in front of as many technicians as possible to make sure they're living happy, healthy, and productive lives on the shop floor. And remember that the show goes out in 4 different formats. We've got 10mm Masteries on Tuesdays. We've got OG one-to-one interviews on Wednesdays. We've got Mechanic Minutes, 2 to 7 minutes of advice on Thursdays. And we've got Coach's Corner going out on Saturdays, usually around 15 minutes or so, talking about something specific that can help you be more productive or happier or healthier working in this automotive service department. And that's expanding to a little bit more now, it seems. We've got folks in HD, AG, equipment, aerospace. We've got military folks listening. We've got automotive folks listening, hourly, flat rate, the whole schmozzle gambit. Everyone listening, I appreciate it. I love you all. I appreciate you all. Because remember, negative pushes, positive pulls, and always clean your toys before you put them away.